Hello Truth Seekers, I wanted to try and do a quick video on first fruits before Pentecost and I wanted to try and put it out there to try and get what little food for thought I could before brainstorming, confirmation, thoughts, iron sharpening iron, before making a final decision about Pentecost this year. But I made a part one discussing first fruits a couple years back, and I'll have the link for that in the description below this video. But in that video, essentially in a nutshell, it seemed the conclusion I came to was it seemed the canonized scriptures weren't clear enough. They weren't calling this date out clearly enough. I couldn't tell if it was during the week of unleavened bread or after the week of unleavened bread. And so in the end, I kind of left the video open-ended with some questions. But I think I ended up kind of siding with what the Dead Sea Scrolls had to say, which was the 26th day of the first month. But I asked the question in the end of that video, like, if it was supposed to always be the 26th day of the first month, then why wouldn't the Creator have simply said that? Like, it doesn't make sense that, you know, he would tell us Passover's on the 14th day, the first day of unleavened bread is on the 15th day, and, you know, he gives us specific days for those events, so why wouldn't he give us a specific day for first fruits? So that was my only question, and since then, I guess I've called into question the authority of some of the Dead Sea Scrolls, such as the Temple Scroll and the Community Rule Scroll, and different scrolls that potentially were just writings of men, and I go into this testing the Dead Sea Scrolls. I've got a series on my YouTube channel. You can get to my YouTube channel by clicking the picture icon below this video, and that'll take you to the channel. And if you click on playlists, just pan left or right and you'll see testing the Dead Sea Scrolls. But I don't say all the Dead Sea Scrolls are bad, but I do question the ones that seem to have doctrines that Yeshua directly debunked, such as love your neighbor, hate your enemy. That's in the Community Rule. And then there are seeming extra instructions in the Temple Scroll, such as keeping the first day of the year as a Sabbath, and I just don't see that in the canonized scripture. So there's this adding to and taking away from that I'm kind of cautious of and I'm testing out. But like I said, that not to say that I don't trust all the Dead Sea Scrolls. I don't see why I can't trust Enoch. I haven't seen contradictions in Enoch. But anyway, I years ago settled on first fruits being the 26th day because that's what the Dead Sea Scrolls say. But since then, I'm starting to question the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it seems this 26th day of the first month information is coming from the Dead Sea Scroll, the portion of the Dead Sea Scrolls that I'm questioning. So I'm just questioning it. It's possible they're right, but I'm trying to see if we can find other witnesses other than just the Dead Sea Scrolls. Like, has anyone been able to find anything more solid in the actual canonized scriptures or something else? Because the thing is, I plotted this out in a preliminary calendar to try and line the dates up, and there's the important thing. I think I did rule out one possibility. I don't think it's possible that I know I mentioned I didn't think it was possible for it to be talking about the Sabbath during the week of unleavened bread in one of my previous videos, but I'm gonna even challenge that here, just brainstorming here, because I started laying it out in Excel, and then I realized might have to think about this more. But something else I noticed in Excel that was important, or if you just lay it out on a calendar, is there are two criteria. It says you need, from first fruit, you need to count 7 Sabbath days, so that's one criteria. And then from first fruits, you also have to count 50 days. And it seems the only way you can get both 7 Sabbath days and 50 days is if the first fruits is actually following a 7th-day Sabbath day. And if the high day of unleavened bread happened to coincide with that, then I guess you could have a match there, but it has to be the day following a 7th-day Sabbath in order for you to fulfill both 50-day criteria and counting 7 days, Sabbath days, I think. So that was interesting. So I think I've ruled out the possibility of us having to start counting from one of the Sabbaths associated, one of the high days associated with unleavened bread. But now the question still remains, is it the Sabbath contained within the week of unleavened bread, or is it the Sabbath following unleavened bread that we're supposed to count from? And the criteria of counting 7 Sabbaths or 50 days will work from either of those. So I think, like I said in my previous video, I mentioned I found a verse that talked about ye shall not eat bread, parched corn, or green ears until the selfsame day that thou hast brought an offering, referring to first fruits. So I thought it was saying thou shalt not eat bread. The only context for not eating bread would be raised bread, and it wouldn't be saying thou shalt not eat unleavened bread. I mean, there's no context for that. So it seems it has to be talking about leavened bread, and so I thought it was saying you cannot eat unleavened bread until first fruits, and then you can eat unleavened bread. And so that's why I was saying it seemed it would surely have to be the week following first fruits. But then it occurred to me, maybe it's possible that verse it could have been talking about the first fruits happening within the week of unleavened bread, and it was just saying you shall not eat unleavened bread until this day. I mean, it doesn't go so far as to say you shall eat raised bread on that day or any day following. So my assumption in my previous video, I think, isn't quite there. It seems like it could still be either way. And there might be something going on in the translation too. I tried looking into it. It looks like the word until is pretty solid in the original scriptures, but maybe if someone understands the original languages, if there's something going on, they can point it out. But it doesn't seem like that verse is necessarily saying, I couldn't see anywhere where it was saying you must eat raised bread on first fruits. It was just saying, it could have just been reiterating or restating the instruction not to eat unleavened bread. Ye shall eat whatever. You can't eat leavened bread during the week of unleavened bread. So it was could have just been saying don't eat it until this day, or it might have even been extra criteria, like maybe you're not supposed to eat bread, corn, and parched corn and green corn until that day, or at least during that day. I don't know. So the other thought that occurred to me was I wonder if there's something in the original language that shows possession over the Sabbath day. Is there a modifier, some kind of Hebrew or in the original language, some kind of a possession, letters or grammar or something that shows possession of the Sabbath day, meaning it shows, if I were to say it's John's car. It shows possession that it's John's car. So is there something in the original language that says something like it's unleavened bread's Sabbath, it is the Sabbath contained in the week of unleavened bread? That's my only other thought right now. Just again trying to get food for thought, brainstorming, iron sharpening iron. I'm still not completely 100% at peace with one date or the other, whether it's during the week of unleavened bread or the week following. So I just hope maybe people can discuss and share their thoughts, and maybe there's time to figure this out before first fruits, because it's either I think it's coming up in the next 2 or 3 weeks, possibly 1 week depending. So let me know your thoughts, and I appreciate it, and we'll do some iron sharpening iron here. So shalom, and may Abba bless as you continually seek out His truth and love with a pure heart.